Guys, this is gonna come as a shock to you, but I hate driving. There's just so many things to hate about it. You have to keep your car clean. You have to follow rules on the road or else you can get arrested. You have to put gas in your tank almost every other week, and that gets very expensive. And even scarier, you can get into a car crash. But easily, the absolute worst thing about driving is getting bored. If only there was a way I could drive while being on my phone. Oh yeah, that exists. Mario Kart Tour, the game that everyone asked for and came out the way nobody asked. Released in 2019 alongside a slew of other Nintendo mobile games, I distinctly remember being excited for Mario Kart Tour and I almost peed my pants. And then I played it, and I literally peed my pants. But for the wrong reasons. For some reason, Mario Kart Tour is viewed as the black sheep of the bunch, and this is the same bunch that has Super Circuit. Mario Kart Tour was plagued with rumors ever since Nintendo began showing interest in creating mobile games. And I mean, why not? If there's any Nintendo game that should be played on iPhones and Androids, it's Mario Kart. I mean, what'd you expect, Star Fox? This game makes the most sense to me, especially when considering the type of games that are released on mobile phones are games that can be played in short bursts. When you look at games that are successful on mobile phones, they tend to be on the shorter side, games that don't involve much attention from the user. Temple Run, Angry Birds, and Candy Crush aren't these complex games that ask a lot from players, mostly just games that you can relax to for a bit. Except when the level starts to speed up in Temple Run. That's like studying for the SATs. So looking at it now, Mario Kart fits perfectly for phones, and I played it for a bit, and it's okay. But for some reason, it just doesn't feel right. Something's missing. Starting in 2016, Nintendo began to look towards the mobile market after years of hesitation, and this shouldn't really come as a surprise. Former Nintendo president Satoru Iwata hated phone games, or at least that's how it would come off in interviews. He's been quoted with saying, if Nintendo made mobile games, it would cease to be Nintendo. And the objective of smartphones and social networks and the reason they were created are not at all like ours. These platforms have no motivation to maintain the high value of video game software. Looks like someone woke up angry. Looking at it now though, it can be seen as pretty silly to have these thoughts about mobile games, but you have to remember at this time, Nintendo was still selling their very own handheld system with the DS and 3DS line. And also, mobile games suck. But over time, Iwata's feelings for mobile games started to change, and I feel like the reason for this change was because of Nintendo's position at the time. The 3DS was getting old, and the Wii U sucked. And I'm pretty sure investors started to look at Nintendo and said, hey, we gotta spread the brand here. We gotta make it more accessible to other people. Start putting it on phones. And honestly, during this time, people started to even say that Nintendo shouldn't make hardware anymore. Eventually, in 2016, Nintendo basically just said, okay, forget it, and they started to release their games on there. With titles like Miitomo and Super Mario Run, they were both kind of successful, with Super Mario Run being a bit more successful than Miitomo, but more titles started to get released. And with Pokemon Go being a smash hit that literally took the world by storm, I'm sure this persuaded Nintendo to stop being so scared and actually release more major IPs on smartphones. And also money. Within a couple more years and releases of games like Animal Crossing Pocket Camp and Fire Emblem Heroes, it showed people that Nintendo could make a pretty competent game if they wanted to. I said if they wanted to. But for some reason, something about these games felt a bit half-baked to me personally. I played Super Mario Run and it made me want to drop out of high school. And I was in college. And I get it, there's a lot of compromises you have to make to have these games work on mobile phones. The experience that people may expect when going to a mobile version of Animal Crossing is much different than the console version. And rumors started to spread quickly about a mobile version of Mario Kart. Questions started to arise as people wondered what the controls would be like and how we play the game. I mean, have you seen a smartphone before? How else are we gonna play it? But by 2018, Nintendo announced on Twitter that Mario Kart Tour is real and that the game will be coming out by March 2019. And then it didn't. Nintendo then released the game for a beta test, and the results were more concerning than my grades in middle school. By September 2019, a whole 6 months later, the game was released on iOS and Android, and the entire world let out a resounding Mario Kart Tour wasn't awful per se, but it was sort of filled with the garbage that plagues most mobile games. To start, this game was developed by DNA, a company that's produced a ton of mobile games before, and I've actually enjoyed some of their games, like Blood Brothers. That is until they took it off the App Store, and my life hasn't been the same since. Mario Kart Tour at its debut had a pretty rocky launch and a couple of glaring issues, with the main one being it's a mobile game. Mobile games are pretty much plagued with a little known disease called in-app purchases. Basically, content and features for a game is locked behind a paywall. And this is especially true for games that are free to play. And guess what? Mario Kart Tour is free to play. And it has this little thing called Everyone say it together now.
Microtransactions.
I'm not sure how to explain it, but it feels kind of dirty to see microtransactions in a Mario Kart game, or any Nintendo game. And wait a second, this is the same company that couldn't get its internet service right for the past 15 years. You're telling me that all of a sudden they know how to charge $40 for a Diddy Kong skin? This sort of played a big role in the mixed reaction for Mario Kart Tour, and for me, I was kind of taken aback by the large amount of microtransactions, especially when you consider their stance on mobile games during the previous generation. But another big issue with the game during its launch is the multiplayer, or the lack thereof. When you think of Mario Kart, do you think of playing it alone in your mom's basement on a cold winter day? No, you think of being with your friends and sharing laughs in your mom's basement. So it pretty much goes without saying that multiplayer and Mario Kart go together like bread and butter. But surprisingly, this feature was missing in Mario Kart Tour on day one. These issues pretty much plagued Mario Kart Tour from the start. But it's like my parents always told me in school, if the gameplay is good, then all other flaws cancel out. And I lied, they never said that before. I booted up Mario Kart Tour and the screen looked like the New York Stock Exchange. The screen is so cluttered up, and I don't even know what I'm looking at honestly. There's so many icons and options on here, it's pretty distracting. At the top, there's numbers that I have no clue what they mean. And at the bottom, there's gangs of toads waiting to jump me, a Christmas present, and a fungus shop. Sounds like a regular day in New Jersey. The game starts you off with a tutorial that I suck at. Just like a lot of things in my life. In the tutorial, you gotta swipe your fingers left and right in order to move your character left and right. And it works. It's not the most ideal way of moving a piece of fungus driving a car, but it works. Yeah, I keep knocking into things and losing my balance because I can barely see the screen with my big thumb in the way, and it's in portrait mode too, so it's hard for me to see stuff that's nearby. Well, at least for me. This game is a thumb lover's favorite game. You can play the entire game with just one finger. Performing tricks is now automated now, and you can use items with a simple tap. I actually think the controls are kinda hard to get used to, at least for me. Even when steering the car with gyro controls, it just never clicked for me, and I grew up using the Wii Wheel. Either way, despite me sucking, I still managed to get into first place. Now, I don't know if it's the game letting me win, or if I randomly became better, but I'm pretty sure it's the latter. It then transitioned me over to a warp pipe that gives you access to different characters, carts, and gliders. And I got Princess Peach on my first try, and that sucks because I won Larry. And now this is when the game officially opens up for you to play. Similar to other Mario Kart games, there's cups for racing, but this game has more cups than a kitchen cabinet. You have a Mario Cup, Dixie Kong Cup, and a Wario Cup, and a lot more. It might come as a shock to you, but Mario Kart Tour actually has more cups than a lot of the Mario Kart console games. Jesus Christ! You basically spend the entire game doing races, and for single player mode, you partake in daily challenges, trying to get as many points as possible. And to keep things interesting, there's a leveling system that progresses depending on if you win races. I actually found the leveling system to keep me pretty interested in the game. By performing certain actions in the game, like tricks and drifting, as well as earning coins in the game, you receive points, which will upgrade your car, character, and glider. That score is then used to determine how many grand stars you get, which can then be used for tour gifts, or that Christmas present at the bottom of your screen. So basically, the more driving you do, the more characters you unlock, through tour gifts and the warp pipe. You see? And this is where things get pretty confusing. The warp pipe, although it isn't random, you don't necessarily have any control of what you receive. You can't pull it every time and receive a high-end driver or cart. In fact, if you pull from a high-end category, the probability of you receiving another thing from the high-end category will decrease, while the probability of you receiving something from the super high-end category or the normal category will increase. This actually makes it kinda fair, and there are limits to which category you can pull from. These pipes use rubies, which can be purchased with real money or received through doing in-game stuff, such as logging in daily or from tour gifts. So basically, there's no way I can get Larry now. I think there being a heavy emphasis on the points and getting as many points as possible kinda weighs down the game because everything is tied to you want to get the cart and character you want instead of having an overall fun experience. I know it isn't like the console games, and playing games on your phone is way different than on a dedicated console, but there's just so much missing. Playing the game now, there's still a lot of fun to be had, but there's some things that are taken away in order to adapt it to smartphones. For one, your car is automatically accelerating. There's no brakes or driving in reverse. You're just going forward. Unlike my life. This actually makes it a bit easier to play, but it incentivizes you to get the best car as possible, meaning spend more money. I actually think the automatic movement works for the game, but I would prefer the way to accelerate the car myself. You can't really feel the weight of the car when you're not moving it by yourself. Now, I'm pretty sure there are other mobile games that allow you to accelerate yourself, but I'm pretty sure Nintendo made it this way so it's accessible to as many people as possible. And we have to remember, this is a smartphone game, so I think it's better to make it as simple as possible than to overcomplicate things. But another feature that's missing is falling off the stage. You just can't. As much as I try to fall or drive Toad off a cliff, it just isn't possible. So single player leaves a lot to be desired. But multiplayer, that's where it's at. And there's nothing better than getting beaten by a bunch of 10-year-olds in Mario Kart. You just can't have a Mario Kart game without multiplayer. That'd be breaking one of the 10 commandments. The multiplayer for Mario Kart Tour is probably the best part of the game for me. I'm perfectly fine with the single player, but it can get pretty monotonous. There's just something about playing with other people around the world, getting destroyed by a bunch of children in Japan, that makes the game so much funner than playing by yourself. And surprisingly, it works pretty well for a Nintendo game. Look, I know it's on phones, but I'm shocked Nintendo hasn't found a way to mess this up. It can't be that hard to set up a multiplayer game on smartphones, but that's a no-brainer. And as of right now, it works. But even playing games on iMessage works, so I don't know if it's that much of an achievement. I was able to find a couple matches and the connection was pretty stable. If there's one thing I could compliment this game on, is that they managed to keep it at a stable frame rate, especially when playing online, and for a fast-paced game as this one, that's really necessary. But then again, I'm playing on an iPhone. You won't catch me alive with an Android. I'm actually not sure how well optimized this game is for other phones, but I remember trying to play Mario Run on this cheap Android phone and it almost blew up. Outside of just racing online with people, that's actually the only thing you can do with the multiplayer. Even though there are microtransactions in the game, there's still a lot of fun to be had, and for some reason, I still can't get angry at the game. I guess that's because there's so much content that you can get through the warp pipe, and that's kinda free. But then again, you still need rupees to use the pipe, and rupees are pretty hard to come by unless you plan on spending money in the game. And I don't, because I have other things I'd rather spend money on. Like? The multiplayer for this game is still fun. I haven't gotten beaten by this many 12-year-olds since middle school. However, one downside is that you can't pick which track you want to go on, nor can players vote on which track they want either. Yeah, because if I had a choice, I would pick Kalimari Desert every time. This is probably the ongoing flaw of the game, the lack of choice for players, which is what other Mario Kart games excel at. You're restricted to only the characters and carts you unlocked, with either money or in-game, and that really does bog down the experience for me. And it sucks, because this game had the potential to be even more. And nothing hurts more than a game that squanders its own potential, especially when it's Mario Kart. And I think I speak for everyone, and by everyone I mean myself, when I say that Mario Kart Tour has the best roster of any Mario Kart game, bar none. There's just a wide representation of different series from Donkey Kong to obscure Mario references, and as of now, there's 144 characters in the game. And sure, while there's a couple of repeats, the variety in cast of drivers is unlike any Mario Kart game before it. Too bad they're stuck behind the paywall. There's actually a lot of creativity spewing from these designs. They even made Wario Canadian! Each time there's an in-game event or some sort of holiday or season, they design the characters around it. I can't wait till they make Mario celebrate Kwanzaa. They even made the sprites from the SNES Mario Kart game playable, and in 3D. Now I know some of these are just skins, but the amount of effort that they put into the different drivers is more than any other Mario Kart game. It's actually something that I can appreciate. The stages, on the other hand, kinda take a bit of a hit, and by hit, I mean they're circular. Compared to their console and handheld counterparts, the tracks in Mario Kart Tour are a bit more rounder, a bit more open and wider. And I'm sure this is because you're playing it on a phone, so you aren't really able to see the entirety of a track. Plus you have less control, so making tight turns would be a bit more difficult to do with one finger. Still, for a mobile game, there's a lot of courses for this game, around 70 currently. There's a bunch of classic courses spanning from different games in the series, along with remix courses which put a new spin on old courses from the past. But by far, the coolest addition is the new courses, which are based on locations in the real world, such as New York and Los Angeles. Because why not? If there was ever a place I'd see a turtle driving a car, it'd be New York. Or Detroit. These stages are actually well made and they fit pretty nicely among the other more wacky Mario Kart tracks. The representation in Mario Kart Tour is more than any other Mario Kart game, and it's kind of amazing that a phone game has this much series reps, but at the same time they want my money! Overall, Mario Kart Tour isn't necessarily a bad game, but it isn't an amazing game either. The graphics, series reps, and music are all great, but there's something that's missing from the game to give it that Mario Kart feel. There's also the fact that they put a bunch of characters and carts behind the gacha paywall. And look, I love Larry, but I don't $40 direct deposit love him. And it's a shame because Nintendo DNA actually had something good on their hands. I can't see myself spending so much money on something so stupid. I mean, it's really dumb to spend $40 on this phone game. Plus, there's better things I could spend $40 on, like this lifetime supply of tissue and toilet paper.